What's good? Welcome in. You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. As you can see to my right, this is what's on the docket for the program today. Top training camp battle. So training camp officially underway in Santa Clara. Cannot wait for the start of the preseason and the regular season. Niners football is back. Before we dive into the top training camp battles, if you want to support the show, you're a big fan of what we do here on the program, a couple of ways for you to do that. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. You can comment and share your thoughts down in the comment section. Most importantly, subscribe to the show as we approach 100,000 subscribers. Appreciate the support. All right, top position battle number one. Obviously, we're going to start with the most important position. It's the battle of the quarterbacks. I understand that Brock Purdy has been fully cleared, but if he can't put velocity on his throws, if he struggles, that opens up the door for either Trey Lance and or Sam Darnold to be this team's starting quarterback. And prior to camp, Kyle Shahanan even said, QB1 is not set in stone. Now, as of right now, this is how the depth chart kind of plays out. Because Purdy is fully cleared, he's going to be quarterback number one. And if he struggles, these other quarterbacks can take over for him in that QB1 post. But this is the depth chart as of right now. And I'm really fascinated to see how all of this plays out. The 49ers quarterback situation is one of the most fascinating storylines in the National Football League among all 32 teams in training camp so far. Can Brock Purdy duplicate the success that he had in his rookie year? Can Trey Lance live up to the expectations and make the necessary improvements and become the player that the Niners envisioned him being when they took him at number 3 in 2021? And then can Sam Darnold finally get on track, because up to this point, it's been a Jekyll and Hyde career for him. Position battle number 2. Who wins RB2? Behind Christian McCaffrey, there are some question marks because of the injury history of Elijah Mitchell. He's a really special player, ladies and gentlemen, when he's able to stay on the field. Unfortunately for Elijah Mitchell, 2 years in the NFL, he's been banged up a lot. Christian McCaffrey has the ability, and he has the potential and the skill set to go off for 2,000 all-purpose yards. I still think it's important, and I think it's wise to conserve him a little bit. And I want to see Christian McCaffrey operate out of the slot a little bit more, and that helps him a little bit with the longevity of his career, and it keeps him fresh if he plays a little bit of wideout. So if that's the case, you can throw some wrinkles in your formations, in your scheme to confuse the opponent, but you also have some talented backs who you can give the rock to give McCaffrey a rest. If Elijah Mitchell can stay healthy, he's one of the best RB2s in the NFL. Falls forward, good vision, really tough. He runs upright, though, which is why I believe he's had so many knee injuries. Now, if he isn't healthy, I think that Jordan Mason, given his physicality, how tough he is, he can break tackles, pick up yards after contact. He could be a really good player in this league. And then you have Ty Davis-Price, former third-round pick, who's buried on this depth chart. Maybe he surprises people throughout training camp, and then Kyle Juszczyk is that do-it-all guy. RB2, pretty good position battle for San Francisco, really just because of the injury misfortune for Elijah Mitchell. Now to tight end. George Kittle, still an All-Pro. That's what he was last year. Second-team All-Pro. He had that connection with Purdy where in the last month of the season, he had 7 touchdowns from Brock. But who backs him up? And if Kittle, who has this injury history as well, does get hurt, who kind of steps into his shoes? Now, as of right now, it's Ross Dwelley and it's Charlie Woerner, the 2 veterans, as George Kittle's backup. But the 49ers did draft 2 rookies, Braden Willis out of Oklahoma and then Cameron Latu out of Alabama, and Latu was a 3rd-round pick. Latu has a lot of ability. He's difficult to bring down in the open field. I like his athleticism. The speed is a little bit better than the pre-draft testing numbers as he has some giddy up to his game. Braden Willis had the most yards broken after contact among all tight ends in college football last year and can contribute on special teams. If Dwelley and Woerner don't come to play, the rookies are really hungry. Wide receiver 3. Are those reps and are those catches up for grabs? We know that Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel are the top 2 options on this offense, and I think that Aiyuk has emerged as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, whereas Deebo is one of the best all-around weapons and Swiss Army knives in the National Football League. Will it be Jauan Jennings again? It seems as though when the Niners have needed a big play the last couple of years on third down, on fourth down, Jennings is the go-to guy. But sometimes he's a little bit inconsistent. Ray Ray McCloud has some top-end speed, but he's more of a special teamer. Really where the conversation lies here is, can Danny Gray make a big sophomore leap? Because given his speed and home run ability, if he's able to be consistent, does he give you more of a threat operating out of the slot than Jauan Jennings, because he can just burn some of those nickel DBs and some of those linebackers? Now let's shift gears to right tackle. Colton McKivitz is going to start for this team at right tackle. Really? The lack of spending along the offensive line is incredibly troublesome for me for the San Francisco 49ers. I thought they got pushed around against the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs last year, going up against two teams with a really good offensive line and defensive line, And Colton McKivitz, the last 2 years, 7.5 pressure rate. That would have ranked 62 out of 67 tackles last year. And he hasn't proven himself really throughout his entire career. And you're expecting him to replace Mike McGlinchey? I understand he's cheaper, but are you going with McKivitz just because he's cheaper, or he might be a better player? Are you trying to save money at a position of importance and really neglecting a massive position along your offensive line? I think it's more of the latter here for San Francisco. Now, ESPN put out their recent 53-man roster projection. These are the offensive linemen that ESPN had making the squad: Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz, John Feliciano, Jalen Moore, Nick Sakel, and Matt Pryor. The problem with McKivitz, if you don't want him to start, who does start? Is it going to be Matt Pryor, a journeyman offensive tackle? Is it going to be an Alfredo Gutierrez, who has been a part of the International Pathway program, hasn't played a lot of football? Is it going to be somebody else who surprises a little bit? Colton McKivitz, massive question, and because of that, it's going to be a top positional battle going into camp. Sticking with the offensive line, Spencer Burford has gotten the vote of confidence from Chris Forster, the offensive line coach, but John Feliciano was the starting center for the New York Giants last year and has played guard, both left guard and right guard. If Burford struggles, and Burford has added a lot of strength and weight throughout this offseason, good for him, then Feliciano can step into those shoes. You know the veteran of Feliciano is going to try to take that job. So with that, let's ask you this. What is your top position battle in 49ers training camp? Just have some fun with it. Let me know down in the comment section. If you want to interact with me, by the way, on social media, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle on both platforms, @Chase_Senior. Don't be a stranger. Slide in the DMs. Say what's up. Now let's go to the defensive side of the football. In the trenches here, backup defensive tackle. A lot of pressure on Jauan Jennings to actually show up. He's barely played since getting drafted in the first round by the Niners, and he hasn't produced at all. 49ers defensive linemen who have the inside track of making the squad: Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead, Jackson, Cleveland Ferrell, Kevin Givens, Jauan Jennings, Kerry Hyder Jr., Austin Bryant, and Robert Beal Jr. Let me tell you this right now. If Jennings doesn't show up, and or if he's injured, he might not make this squad, and the team just might have to eat the $4 or $5 million in salary that they would have to do if they were to let him go. But the Niners have some solid backup defensive tackles like a T.Y. McGill, who's kind of on the outside looking in, and Kevin Givens as well. Hot seat, Jauan Jennings. Opposite of Nick Bosa, I think this is a position that needs to show up for San Francisco. Drake Jackson has to have a big year too. And can Chris Kocurek, who's developed basically every defensive lineman who he's coached with San Francisco as the best defensive line coach in the NFL, get the best out of Cleveland Ferrell, who up to this point has been a pretty big bust for the Las Vegas Raiders? I'm putting my money on Kocurek to develop Drake Jackson and Cleveland Ferrell, but these two are going to be competing for the starting edge spot opposite of Nick Bosa. Linebacker 3 alongside Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw is also up for grabs, and this is a position that I really have no idea until I actually watch who plays, who's going to start on this 4-3 defense. Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, two of the best off-ball linebackers in the NFL. You don't really want Oren Burks starting here because of his special teams value and the fact that he's not really a quality starting linebacker. Marcelino McCrary-Ball is a guy who I like. You drafted D. Winters as well as Jalen Graham. You have Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and Curtis Robinson as backups as well. But LB3 alongside two of the best in the business, a fun training camp battle. And then who starts at slot cornerback? I think the outside positions are determined with Deommodore Lenoir and Charvarius Ward. As far as starters go, I like the secondary unit here. Charvarius Ward, Deommodore Lenoir. This is my projected starting lineup for week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Isaiah Oliver, who's been a pretty good player for the Atlanta Falcons, does end up starting there with Samuel Womack as his backup. Talanoa Hufanga was an All-Pro last year. I think that Tashawn Gibson might start week 1, but I think that his position could be up for grabs from a rookie. Can Jair Brown do it? The rookie third-round pick out of Penn State is such an instinctual player and such a baller. I had him go into the Niners on a couple of my mock drafts. I pleaded for San Francisco to draft him because I thought he'd be a great fit in this defense. It kind of has Steve Wilks written all over it. Steve Wilks, very good defensive coordinator, does have a defensive background, and I think that he can help develop a Darrell Luter Jr. who's going to start camp on PUP. He can help develop a Jair Brown. Tashawn Gibson enters camp as the starter, but look out for Jair Brown at some point to potentially start opposite of Hufanga. If you're still hanging out with us, Real One Roll Call, we appreciate you for supporting the show and, of course, watching all of our content. So give us a real one down in the chat right now.